Hi everyone, welcome back to the 5710 podcast, this time with David Henderson from Glenn Howells Architects. With offices in Birmingham and London, GHA has grown into a studio with national and international reach, with many of their designs having been nominated and awarded prizes. David joined GHA's London office in 2012, leading the successful competition submission and overseeing the design of the new John Lewis department store and a residential block within Land Security's Oxford Westgate development. Hello, David.
Hello there.
Welcome back to RGU.
Oh, thank you very much. Good to be here.
Past alumni, aren't you?
Yes, a long time. I've been class of '89 or something like that.
It's changed a lot since then.
Well, the building's moved,
Yeah.
for one thing, but I think that a lot of the spirit, is still here.
Yeah.
And very much so.
That's good to hear.
So it's great to be back and see him.
Have you managed to kind of look at a little bit of the student work?
Yes, we just had a quick look into all the studios.
That's good.
And a quick chat to the students. So.
You're actually the first practice we've had this year that's had two large offices in two large different cities. How closely linked are they as because you're the same practice? So.
Yeah, well, it's that's the challenge really, is to make sure that we do speak with one voice, and operate together. We're split into, so we work in a sort of a studio system within the two locations. So the Birmingham office has I think 5 design studios, and then we have 2 in London, and so we operate at sort of with a degree of autonomy within that structure. But then all of what we spend a lot of time on is design review, from a high level, and almost on a constant basis. We review all the live projects every week in both studios, and we have people. I sit on the London design review panel, but sometimes look at things in Birmingham. Yeah. And I've got a counterpart from Birmingham does a similar thing.
Kind of keeps everyone up to date.
It keeps everybody up to date. Glenn Howells is very hands-on as well, so he's down in London at least 2 days a week.
Oh, yeah.
As well. So we video conference together. Okay. Quite often we do Friday evening, end of the week sort of catch-ups, and we'll quite often have somebody will talk through a project that they've done, and we can watch that together. And as a whole collective, we do study tours together. Oh yeah. We spend time together at Christmas, and usually something in the summer as well. Mm-hmm. So that's just one of the biggest single challenges, is to get a consistent high quality output out of more than one location.
Mm-hmm. Similarly, you work on very large projects in Glen Hills, both the Birmingham and the London office. Is there a big difference, especially tower buildings? It seems like, is there a big difference between working on maybe smaller projects and these like large, almost master plan scale?
Very much so. It's very easy to graduate from small buildings into big buildings and then never do the small projects again. So what we are very conscious of, we still do small projects.
Yeah, you can see that on your website. It's still like.
And in a way, the small projects are the ones that catch the attention. Mm-hmm. In a way, they can. We take them on. They're not about earning fees and revenue. It's about doing research, doing interesting ideas that you can sort of try on there, and they increase the profile of what we do. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to do that. I think, and we wouldn't want to become we're also, if we just gravitate to doing huge projects and nothing but, then we're competing with much bigger offices than us probably doing that as well. So it's good to have a foot in both camps. Yeah.
So you, as we said, you studied in RGU and lived in Aberdeen. Was it quite a big difference when you moved down to London and started working there? Or did you acclimate quite easily to the bigger city life?
Well, it didn't all come in one fell swoop. I did my first year out down in London. Oh, okay. So I was already familiar with that. Yeah. And then when I was back in Aberdeen to finish diploma, I'd also actually been a part of the exchange program with Chicago when I was a student. So, so I was used to, being, out cities. And about. Yeah. So it didn't come as a whole sudden sea change. One day you open your door and there's London. But I'd kept in touch with people. I mean, I graduated into, one of several recessions that there's been in my career. Yeah. And the workload just collapsed in London almost in a 6-month period. Mm-hmm. And so I was actually in Aberdeen not just as a student but also worked here for 3 years post diploma. Did my part 3 in Aberdeen. Worked with Michael Gilmore, who used to teach here. Yeah. And then I taught in the school part time as well. For about half a year. So it was never an abrupt transition. Okay.
I've noticed on your website, and I've been told by people that have worked in your office, that presentation models are quite an important tool. Is this to kind of help clients get an eye for it, or is it?
Yeah. Absolutely, not just presentation models actually, but all models. I think we've got a model workshop with 3 or 4 guys, fully equipped workshop, and they apply a very high standard, and almost our challenge is to ask for quick models that can help the unfolding of ideas. Yeah. Really, and you don't actually want it to be too perfect in a way, and we will, we bypass the workshop and we make models ourselves as well. And the idea is that you've got to be able to take scissors to it if you have to, and then move on to the next idea. So it's a very important part of the
that's
the
kind of what
process.
We're taught here as well. That sometimes people get very precious with models and they don't want to change things, and then we're told that you need to be a bit more loose with it almost.
It's a difficult thing to get, because we all want to take care, But,
exactly.
But the process, trying to be fluid is something, and I think for me, finding techniques to quickly free up ideas has always been, the key to to making progress.
Yeah, exactly.
Project, the whole business of being in architecture progresses through how the design progresses. If you haven't got the design and you can't advance the design, you just get stuck. Yes. Really. So it's all about keeping fluid, I think.
Mm-hmm. And as mentioned, 2 people in our year have worked at Glen Hills, and then you've also hired 3 last year or 5 last year or something. Well,
there's a spoiler alert for the talk tonight. I found out actually, because I wasn't aware, we currently have 10.
Oh, okay.
10 That's graduates, 10 Aberdeen graduates spread between our studios.
Is there any reason for that?
Probably something to do with me. I can possibly explain that in the talk as well. I'll give you a little bit of background. But
other listeners anyway that don't manage to get to the talk.
Where I worked down in London, and actually when I first met Glenn, we had both. We worked for a chap called Robin Spence, and Robin Spence was part of a practice called Spence and Webster. The other half being Robin Webster, who was the head of school here when I was a student, and so that's one of the connections in there. So when I was a student. I was part of the year that set up 5710, and one of our first year speakers was Glenn Howells. So there's, it's just kind of quite a small,
it's like a cycle
sort of cycle of things like that. But I think that the education, the philosophy that gets taught at this school of architecture is very much aligned with the way that we think, the importance we place on crafting buildings and architecture. And, quite simply, we've got people, graduating out of Scott Sutherland's who just get it very quickly, and they can, within a week, you can almost seamlessly integrate graduates into, which can be quite, major projects, and they will find a role, that sort of pushes them on, and it just means that you build your whole team from a base of people who, just naturally have a common philosophy of architecture.
Yeah.
And so we know that that you guys are brought up that way as well. So that's why we keep the relationship.
So we're kind of nearing the end, and we have 2 questions that we ask everyone. So what's your favourite memory from your architectural career, or maybe a favourite story that you'd like to tell, whether from Rob going in university or in the workplace as well?
Right. Well, probably one of the formative things for me, actually in the first term of first year, we this was Robin Webster's first year as head of school.
Yeah.
And he organised. They did a thing. I don't know if it still runs. It was called the Architectural Winter School. So it was for all the UK schools of architecture. They sent up representatives, and the whole school was taken over. It was set up little workshops of ideas.
Yeah.
So well-known architects came. There were lectures in the evening. There were people building things. They made sort of hot air balloons out of mylar. They built a geodesic dome. And the people who Robin brought up were, and we didn't realise at the time, these were top names in UK architecture. And just being, when you're still unformed, and you don't really know what architecture is about. I mean, you can't underestimate how important that is, and just in setting the direction of your career.
Yeah.
Really. So that would be the school thing. I think was in about 1983 or 84 winter school.
We'll have to bring that back.
Yes.
So final question: if you could, we're doing a kind of thing where we're going to bring all this together on a map. But if a student might go on a grand tour of architecture, if you could recommend a city and a building that they would go to. Where would it be, or what would it be? Right.
Can it be one city and one building in a different city?
Yeah, of course.
I think I would send someone to Chicago.
Okay.
Every time. It's still got it even now.
Yeah.
But it's modernism. Really, 150 years of history. You've got Mies there. You had Frank Lloyd Wright there. Some of the best work that Skidmore's did, and they've still got great things happening. They've invested very heavily in their infrastructure, their parks, their public realm, and it's a proper grown-up city. It's what a built environment should be about. Yeah. If it was a building, probably I think the single building that I've gone to that has had a profound impact, and I think probably especially because I thought I knew it quite well from having seen it in books and things like that, was the Kimball Gallery, Louis Kahn's Kimball Gallery in Fort Worth. Yeah. And just a stunning piece of work. It's got absolutely everything that matters, that counts in what I think modern architecture is about. It's a stunning piece of work. Okay. That would be it.
That's perfect, thank you. Thank you very much for coming back up to Aberdeen. Hope you
pleasure.
Enjoy your trip. When do you go back down to London?
Oh, tomorrow morning, I'm afraid.
No, not enough time. Well, I hope you have a safe trip back down. And thank you for joining us.
No, thank you.
Thank you everyone for listening. And next week we'll have Rab Bennets on. So be sure to tune into that. Thank you.